Okay, it's your friend Lukie. Let me get this situated. It's your friend Lukie. Actually, you know what? One second. We'll let the peeps get in here. That's right. I had to get it super official. Let's make this a real legit pod. A nice looking podcast today. All by myself. So I'm going to have to not just look at the screen because that feels gross. It is a solo podcast, and it's kind of a solo journey in boxing right now. After that Saudi card, the big Saudi card that we had over to start May, we really are starting to slow down to the point where you're like, wait, what is May in terms of boxing content? It's really kind of a struggle till the end of May. We're kind of sandwiched with stay busy type cards, although I really enjoyed this week's action. Was kind of a stay busy. The lead. The big reason you clicked into this show, and maybe I'll just put this with my results this week. It is Charly Suarez. He lands a punch. It was ruled by my guy, Ed Calantes, who's a great referee, a Northern California referee. He rules it a head clash. It's Emanuel Navarrete, WBO junior lightweight title holder. I'm not setting this up. Let me set this up better because I'm just rambling. Because I'm not used to doing a one-person show, but I talk a lot. So it's almost like I do a one-person show. Because I really should be able to do a one-person show because all I'd like to do is talk to myself. So let's see if I can keep you guys and gals entertained by just doing a one-person show. Because it is Mother's Day and absolutely no one wanted to jump on the podcast with me. And I figured I owed it to everybody to do some sort of show. Maybe something would be compelling here, even though I don't think this is a fight that a lot of people are like, man, I need observation on it beyond getting on the internet and getting really mad. A fly just died right there. So Emanuel Navarrete was trying to make the first defense of his WBO junior lightweight title. His whole career arc has been strange. Comes out of nowhere, beats Isaac Dogbo, becomes a 122-pound champion, moves up, beats Ruben Villa, who's one of the best amateur boxers that I had ever seen. It was kind of a shocker to me that Navarrete had beaten him. Then he goes to 130, wins the belt, becomes a 3-division world champion, defeats Valdez 2 times, but then he loses to Dennis Baranchek, who arguably really shouldn't have been capable of beating him, but he got outworked by him in that fight and lost a fight which would have made him a 4-division world champion. This is just that boring know-it-all stuff. That sets the stage for this fight. Navarrete misses weight on his first attempt, then makes the limit within the time period California State Athletic Commission grants him. So he comes in, gets cut in the fight. And this is where I've seen a lot of my peers or people, they go, oh my God, how do you miss out? And please, if you're watching right now, leave comments because this is a Lukie solo show. So leave comments, hit the thumbs up. I need comments because I need stuff to get frustrated about. That'll super help the show be not boring. And I'm not always looking at the comments because it's weird just looking into my computer screen. It's easier if I pretend I'm in a bathroom mirror giving a know-it-all boxing speech. It just works better when Dakota's not here to bounce ideas off of me. I apologize in advance. So Navarrete, you got one thing you got to know, and I feel for my guy Ed Calantes in this situation. Great ref, in my opinion, especially in the Northern California club circuit. You're reffing Navarrete. He's just going to be flying all around. He's a rough guy to ref, and there's going to be a lot of awkward movement, and there's really a high potential with 2 aggressive fighters, Suarez and Navarrete, for a head clash to occur. I've seen screen grabs where he was there. It's bang, bang instance. Boom. Punch lands, head clash. ESPN went all the way to show that the punch caused the cut, and Suarez should have been the champion. That being said, the referee deemed it a head clash. I believe it was one of those where it was hard in the moment. See, this is the thing, right? We all on our couch have possibly a better angle, better coverage, better vision of what's going on than the referee in the fight. And you're probably going to say, what do you mean, Lukie? What do you mean by that? But it feels like when I'm on fight coverage, it feels like when I'm watching fights now, I feel like I know less than I used to know. I feel like I'll watch a fight and I maybe know so much about boxing or have such a deep understanding or lack thereof. Maybe some people in there might be like, I should be on this YouTube stream talking to you. I know more than you, and you probably do. Sometimes I wonder, what am I seeing? I question myself. And I think sometimes when you're a rules official in a big moment with an awkward fighter, it's hard to really be present. That's why experience for fighters, that's why experience for refs really matters. Boom, boom, instant. Not saying this is what happened, but if you don't necessarily know what happened or you didn't see the shot, chances are people are going to err on the side of a head clash, because if it's ruled a punch and you didn't see the punch happen, the punch would cause a TKO and a stoppage loss, whereas a head clash goes to the cards. And more often than not, those type of cuts come from head clashes. The referee ruled it a head clash. Upon a lot of video review, we find out that it was from a punch. A lot of strong opinions on the internet go, oh my God, I would have seen the punch. If I was in there, you probably wouldn't have, right? Because we have better angles, and there's a big fan in the other room that's saying that. And that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay. Abe G, Gonzalez Boxing, big YouTube personality, and my guy, he said it looked like a punch from ringside. So, Abe, I'm going to throw this to you, and I'm going to go through some of these questions. How telling of a blow and how telling of a punch did it look? Because for me, I know the referee, and I know he's a good referee. And I think that complicates the matter, because I think a lot of people are able, if they don't know someone, to be, it's obvious it was a punch and all that. Watching at home on TV, I saw the punch. I saw a head clash. Boom, boom, instant. It was a confusing mixture. From that moment, Suarez comes on. Navarrete is very much impacted by the cut. He gets out with a win. That'll probably be a no contest. It's just confusing. Navarrete's career is obviously trending in the wrong direction. Yo, what up, fellas? Abe said Navarrete's career is trending in the wrong direction. It's not good. Suarez should probably be the champion. But then this goes into like bureaucracy and commissions and what's going to happen. When is a commission ever going to be like, you know what? Someone made a ruling. We're not, more than likely, they're not going to go against someone who was who ruled on something in the ring. More than likely, the commission will make it a no contest, if anything, because they don't want to take the power or the authority away from the third man in the ring, more than likely. And I don't know. I think that a lot of times, like with the internet, in these instances that are tricky, we just get a lot of strong opinions. It's like the echo chamber of strong opinion. I saw him from Suarez's back, so a good angle from the left punch he threw. Okay, so in real time, as soon as it landed, he rose up and you could see the blood trickle. See, this is one of these where I'd have to, like, it's hard, because I distinctly remember, and now everyone in the chat's going to leave because I'm going to talk about a club show fight that I broadcasted 8 or 9 years ago. How obnoxious is that? That's probably like the worst thing to talk about on the My Mom's Basement the Lukie boxing. The Big Dog with Dakota and Lukie boxing show. Luis Garcia versus Jonathan Zamudio. It was like the 6th or 7th round. I want to say it was the 7th round, and they were on the ropes. I forget. I think it was Garcia got caught, and it was like a head clash and a right hand. And I want to say, I'm doing a bad job at this because it was 8 or 9 years ago, and life happens. But basically, the instance happened where a punch landed and a head clash happened, or vice versa, and a cut opened. And I was on the broadcast, and whatever I said was the exact opposite of what happened. So, I think it's a tricky instance to when these things happen, because it's tough, because I have to be there to see that moment, because on TV, I wasn't completely sure what happened on TV. I saw a punch land. I saw like a collision of the heads. Navarrete's awkward. He'll bump into you. He'll kick you. He'll hit you all over the place. So for me, it was weird, right? And Suarez, like, by all means, he's a tough, deep amateur guy, veteran fighter, will come and brawl with you, and he's got that will to win, and he's tough, and he's not going to ever slow down. And I think he came off as very likable because he took adversity, and then he lands this big punch, this telling punch that looked like it was going to change the fight. Then, it's ruled as a head clash, so he can't win off of the punch. And then the doctor kind of prematurely stops the fight. So I think that it's not necessarily the referee's call. It was just kind of the way everything happened with the emotion of the moment. And I think it also speaks to some fight fans are a little tired of Emanuel Navarrete. He's struggling with weight classes. He's not looking like what we think of as a main event fighter. He's got the gangster in him. He's got the toughness in him, but he doesn't always present the things we ask of those type of fighters in terms of conditioning. Daisy Sanchez, Suarez was losing the fight up until the cut. I 100% agree, and that's something also that I think is tricky about it. Now, I also think that one thing we should talk about is if we use instant replay, it's tricky, right? Because it was such a bang instant. We really need almost like ESPN to go in there and help the commission. And I'm not sure if they did or they didn't, but we need to get something where we can get definitive and decisive proof on things. This is going to be something that at the Seoul Arbiter Conference, they are going to talk about an instant like this and go through this on how to improve it, because I know that's how Jack Reese and these referees are. People love to criticize the referees, but they work very hard at this. And this is a tricky instant where you have two come forward pressure fighters who were probably destined to get clashes and cuts and all that. And you're thinking as a referee, can I just get a clean fight? You're wishing that this would just be a clean fight. Let me go to some of these other questions in the chat. Do you know who Dylan Price is? In fact, I do know who Dylan Price is. I've interviewed Dylan Price multiple times when I was at ITR Boxing. I believe you can go and listen to some interviews I've done with Dylan Price. I've done a few things with Dylan Price. He used to be with Mayweather Promotions. He lost a fight. The fight was overturned because the fighter had an issue. I forget what the issue was. Probably like some form of thing to get suspended from. And now I'm looking up his record. He's 19-0, 13 KOs, returns May 16th. So maybe I should get out there and try to interview him. Hasn't fought since October. 3 fights last year. I'm really waiting for him to have that moment where he steps up to that next tier. He turned pro in 2017. I remember hearing a lot about him because there was a guy in my area, Darry Noble, who I had a lot of faith that he could be in that position. And I was hoping Darry Noble would one day fight Dylan Price. I don't think Darry Noble even boxes anymore, and Dylan Price, we're hoping, can make that leap. And that's why when people always tell me, oh, I know this guy is a world champion, great amateur pedigree, there's a lot of them. And then 8 years after you're pro, where are you? Even with an undefeated record, that is it. Spirit Monk, I do boxing for a sport. Great, right on. Just want the truth. I think Charlie Suarez should be the champ. I mean, that is a really fair opinion. Top Rank learned from Tim Tszyu versus Fedora to stop the fight early rather than having their guy lose because he's bleeding. Now, I get from a fan's perspective that you think that the promoter has some control over that. And maybe I'm naive, but really that's the ringside physician. And the ringside physician is someone who is there, whose their only job is to say, is this person fit? Is this person capable of defending themselves? Are they in shape to fight? Are they capable of fighting at this moment? And that is separate from the promoter. So though I get from a fan's perspective, it can feel, because boxing does a lot of things to take away your love of the sport of boxing. I feel like I think that isn't what happened. I think that that's just a doctor. And I think oftentimes, we have some great doctors in the sport of boxing, but we also have some doctors who, if we're being honest, they're really, really kind people that find boxing interesting, but they're very compassionate people who want to help heal people. So when they see the violence, when they see the blood, I'm thinking of Michael Dutch over in Midland, Texas. Like, you go to a Midland, Texas, you might get someone that's inexperienced in these situations and stop a fight prematurely because they're a kind person. And in this instance, You know, it was a bad cut. It was open. I think the big thing I saw was, what do I always talk about? And this is something that, like, when you go to Crawford Canelo, right? Foreshadowing a Crawford Canelo, maybe. Neither of those teams have like a big cut man, a famous cut man, a proven guy. You know, you don't see Basil, you don't see Stitch, you don't see Aaron Navarro, Mike Rodriguez, Russ Abner. You're not seeing this Rudy Hernandez. You're not seeing these guys that are proven in those corners as much. When you see Canelo, you got Eddie Reynoso. And to be honest, Eddie Reynoso's work with Oscar Valdez was not amazing in the Emanuel Navarrete fight. Navarrete had a deep gash. It would be hard to stop. But I mean, this, you know, you don't like this cut, probably nobody could stop. But now it's going to be interesting seeing Navarrete go forward. Are they going to bring in a cut man? And it's like, that's been the criticism for me about Navarrete has always been, Navarrete is a guy who, like, it always seems year after year, it's the next fight, it's the next thing when he's going to do something. And it just seems like he's someone that's getting by on physical toughness, a will to win, and an ability to push like unlike others. But it's like, you have to wonder what would have happened if this guy had that diet and maybe a little bit more discipline in his prime. Like, what type of fighter he could have been. But maybe that's part of the package with him. Maybe some of his relentless nature comes from his recklessness. I don't know. Andre in the chat. Thank you, Andre, for joining the show today. Lukie, do you think Pac-Man has a legit shot at beating Mario Barrios at his age? I'm a little worried. I don't like this fight, man. And this goes back to Grandpa Lukie, who's one of my heroes, right? He got me into a lot of things that I like. Actually, probably outside of my mom, one of my most influential figures in my life. Because when I look at the things I love the most in my life, they basically stem from either my mom or my grandpa. That's how influential my grandpa is. And you guys are like, why are you talking about grandpa? It's boring as hell. Well, I say that to say we got the Sugar Ray Leonard Hector Camacho fight when I was a kid. And it's like, here's Sugar Ray Leonard. I had never seen him because I was born really before all of his great fights happened. But I had a little VHS tape. And they said back in the days, and then really realistically, when I'm watching it was like 10, 15 years before the date I was watching it at, right? And I was playing like my little PGA Tour 1996 video game with terrible graphics, dreaming like one day this will be me or something, right? Taking down memory lane. I know you're very excited to go through this memory lane, but what I'm saying is Camacho, though I distinctly was unaware of how talented he was, that was a really sad moment to have a pay-per-view, or I remember it as a pay-per-view. I'm sure it was a pay-per-view, but if it wasn't a pay-per-view, we had to get a channel and my grandpa had to call in for that to happen, etc. So I remember watching that and seeing a legendary fighter not be at his best. And for Pacquiao, you know, when he fought Ugas, he didn't look like the same guy. He fought an exhibition bout last year, and he didn't look great. And Mario Barrios is one of the most underrated guys in his division. He's got a really good coach with Bob Santos. Look, I'm fine with the fight in terms of Barrios because Barrios is a really nice guy. He's a great fighter, and he deserves big fights like he's getting. But I really don't love the fact, with all that Manny Pacquiao has done for the sport, that he's continuously coming back. I mean, when he came back for Thurman, that almost felt like too much, and he's still going. I mean, we don't hear about Floyd Mayweather at all anymore. We don't hear about Floyd in any capacity. Well, that's not true. Floyd does his little exhibition bouts, so I guess he's still in the same boat too. But I don't love the fight. I hope that if it does happen, it's an uneventful fight with a clear winner and nobody gets hurt, if that's the case. Suarez was losing the fight. I already read that. That is a spam comment, so we're going to just take that comment out. Okay. Daisy Sanchez, I wonder, where did these doctors from no gloves touching, so I guess this question, I'm going to be an editor. Where do these doctors, I don't know what to say. Like, I guess the doctor had no gloves on touching Navarrete. I don't know. Like, I've been to a lot of boxing shows. I've never gone up to the doctors. I've never really talked to the commission because they're scary, and it's a great way to feel like you're going to get in trouble. So I don't really mess with them. Navarrete was working with Memo Heredia for this fight, and honestly, it didn't make any difference. I mean, we don't know, right? To be honest with you, I don't know. He had issues making weight, and he looked good at times, but then he got cut, and it's like, he bit down and he fought and stuff. But other than that, it is what it is in terms of this fight. He showed what he does. He played the hits, so to speak. And it was an all right enough fight, but it's also a fight that I could definitely forget that it happened. That's also the way it was. Undercard, I will touch on very briefly in case you didn't see it. Raymond Muratalla beats Zaur Abdullaev in the undercard. Muratalla is a very good fighter. I've seen some people suggest that maybe he needs to move up to junior welter because there's a weight cut issue there. I'm not sure what it is. I think the big thing with Muratalla, he really reminds me a lot of Mikey Garcia. He's a good fighter. He's got good reflexes, good timing. The thing is, he is a patient fighter that if he's winning a fight, he's not going to take risks, okay? And that's the tricky part to the Muratalla equation is Abdullaev was in a position where he was down a lot of rounds. He's a puncher, but you had two fighters who their temperament is to either counterpunch or overwhelm fighters, and neither really could do much. Like they couldn't. Muratalla could dictate the fight. He could take away Abdullaev's jab, but he couldn't overwhelm him. If he tried to overwhelm him, he left himself open to big punches. And Abdullaev showed in this fight when he threw his right hand, he had some power, and then it got Muratalla's attention. So Muratalla, when he's up on rounds, has the chance to be the interim IBF lightweight title holder. There's a good chance Lomachenko might be retiring, so that might turn into an outright title. What's the incentive to really take a risk? Abdullaev isn't taking risks. It just leads to an uneventful fight, which kind of goes into these other fights we've had, Haney Ramirez and a lot of these others, Canelo, William Skull, where there's a lot on the line in theory, but guys aren't taking risks like there's a lot on the line. And I don't know if it's money or if it's generational or what it is, but this fight, it lacked the urgency of a world title fight. And none of that is Muratalla's fault because he got ahead and he got the lead. And if you have the lead and you're in the position to get a world title, more power to you. But it just didn't have that urgency. And that kind of piggybacked off a couple undercard fights I was really looking forward to. Andreas Cortes was on the undercard. He's right up there for a title shot. He was telling me he wants to be in an action fight with Navarrete. He wants to let his hands go, be a fight of the year. And in this fight, he fought a guy, Salvador Jimenez, who really was coming to like stink it out, fight off of the back foot, really not take many chances, but he could block Cortez's fight. And what we got was Cortes was coming off of basically a year layoff. He looked like he had some ring rust. It was a mixed bag to me because I think Cortes gained valuable ring experience that will help him for a title fight, showing the maturity to not just go for a knockout. But then he also probably didn't get the type of performance that gets you into a world title fight. So he had a lateral move against an opponent that wasn't very exciting when he's got a lot of wins and he's right up there at the top of the division. As we're seeing in the comments, Cortes and Giovani Santillan. Giovani, another one, right? Giovani, and I'll piggyback into that. Giovani's an interesting fighter from San Diego, hometown guy. I mean, I thought that fight was very, very close. And now keep in mind, last week I was on the road. I was enjoying myself, getting a sunburn, first degree burn. Nothing more than that, right? No close encounters type burns. And I'm watching the fight, and it's a good fight. Well, it's an all right fight. The Giovani fight had a fight that had a temperament, and those in the chat give me questions about Muratalla and stuff. I just want to go over the Giovani, and then I'll keep it moving. So dictate the conversation in the chat where you want me to talk, and I'll just keep talking that way. But with Giovani and really with Andreas and some of Muratalla, there was like a bit of a sparring temperament. But really with Giovani, there wasn't a separation. And like when Muratalla was able to separate himself from Abdullaev, Cortes separated to a certain degree where he showed that he was the more skilled fighter, won clearly on points. But with Giovani, I was a little concerned that he wasn't separating as well. And it looked as though he's skillful, he's talented, but maybe the physical attributes might be declining at this point. And it also could be he fought a guy that maybe I don't give enough credit to, and that guy makes fights a lot harder. To me, Giovanni's at a point where he really needs to fight like a Rohan Polanco or Tiger Johnson, because I'm not really sure where he's at. And if he wants to rebuild or get himself into that position, he's at that point where is he, they allude to, could he be a diminished fighter? Or is he someone that can sneak up on an up-and-comer? Because we've seen him before where we thought he was a diminished fighter, and then he went in and knocked out Alexis Rocha. So with Giovani, I think his career is very interesting because he had the DeMarco fight. People wrote him off. Then he knocks out Rocha, maybe overrate him. Then he gets knocked out by Norman. But before the Norman fight, there was the fight with my guy. Why am I blanking on his name? Because Kareem Mayfield was supposed to fight Sean Porter, but then it was him, Eric Bonet, my guy Eric Bonet, who I absolutely like, basically beat him and didn't get the decision. And I'm biased on that one. I love Eric Bonet. Bonet is one of those good fighters. I don't know what you do with him, but I thought it was very, very unusual that all the undercard fights went to decision and nobody really tried to like stand out. No one tried to really move up the card. I felt like this was an undercard that was there for the taking on this Top Rank show. And nobody was really trying to move up the card or make a claim to, get a little more money or notoriety. This was a card where you could possibly go viral off of it. I got Rocha if they rematch. I mean, Rocha's also one of these guys where it's like his last fight with Raul Curiel, he probably fought the best fight he could fight. And that fight turned into a draw. So, I mean, that was frustrating. I do agree Navarrete Suarez was not boring, but I guess what I misspoke. It was every undercard bout before it, nobody was really having that standout performance. And then we have Navarrete who fights, crazy. And it's a little different, it's just a little different, so yeah. So that was that card. Anybody in the chat, feel free to chime in. Anthony Cacace continues his career. He knocks out Leigh Wood. Good European card. I didn't catch a lot of it, but Leigh Wood, someone that he had that great run. He had a really, really good run. I'd say about 2021, 2022, 2023, which to me feels like last year, but now it's already starting to be like 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, what the freak? How is that possible? But it is. And I'm sitting here going what? Makes zero sense. I don't understand this. And he stops Leigh Wood. And there's a lot of weird things. Like let me look this up. Why is Leigh Wood so inactive? I don't know. And this was a fight I watched with no audio. So I'm sure the broadcast team, because I'm thinking it, I'm sure that's like one of the obvious questions you'd talk about in the telecast, because, that's something that most people would probably be interested in knowing is like, what the heck's going on here? Cacace, he's got another big win. Leigh Wood hadn't fought in, a year and a half, 2 years since he stopped Josh Warrington. That's really a long time, and really a guy that to me, I thought was a breakout type star. Cacace, he's got some big wins now. He's putting himself in the mix. He's got his last 3 wins are great. Joe Cordina, Josh Warrington, Leigh Wood. He's a guy. I think the strangest thing is that he doesn't have the IBF title that he won. But, whatever. I guess that also probably speaks to he's 36 years old and he wants big money fights, and he's valuing big money fights over titles at this point. And I guess when you're someone who had a hard career, you know, early on and probably feel as though you didn't get those same opportunities other fighters got, you're really trying to maximize your earning potential. So that happened. Another one, Dainier Pero, heavyweight up-and-comer, gets dropped twice en route to a win on Most Valuable Promotions card Friday. That was a good one to check out. So if you like those shows, go back and watch that. Would you yeah. So I mean that's one to check out if you like that type of stuff. Am I getting sick? Unsure, because I just rubbed my nose and that is concerning to me. Throwing it back to the chat. Is there anything I should know? Let's see. Cacace is super underrated. I think he is. And part of it is it's activity, and it's also not being in with the, I hate to say it, but you got to be in with those top names, the top contenders. You know, that's how you don't stay underrated, is when you get it in the mix. Does Cacace even want to be at 130 anymore? I don't know. These are things that we should be asking and trying to get. Mauricio Lara got screwed. Yeah, I mean, you could argue. Sugar Nunez knocks out everyone at 130 pounds. He will be fighting at the end of the month for that vacant IBF title, and it seems like he might be a very serious guy. Nicholas Flaws. I guess I should talk about that card too. So thank you for bringing that up. ProBox TV card. If you didn't catch it, another great card. You know, ProBox TV, all they do is put on really, really fun cards. If you're a super big fan of boxing, I highly recommend you watch ProBox TV cards because they're really, really fun. And if you like competitive fights, that's what the network is built on. If you don't like those type of fights, well, then probably watch other fights because there's plenty of those too. Erickson Lubin stops Ardreal Holmes. The fight was weird. Holmes kind of has like a sparring mentality at times. He made it kind of a weird, clumsy fight. But after the 9th round, Erickson Lubin picked it up and got a stoppage in the 11th round. Lubin's now training with Mark Ferret. Really good coach. He trains other guys who got wins on the card. Darrell Valsaint, Naji Lopez, and Dominic Valle. Lubin's now the mandatory for Bekram Murtazaliev. And hot take, I'm going to favor Lubin in that fight. The best fight of the night, unless you're a sexist, would be Meili Flores Razasco Rosquiero taking on Nazaria Romero. Really good 122-pound fight. I believe Razasco becomes the WBA bantamweight. What would that be? A junior featherweight champion. Really friggin' fun fight where they laid it all on the line. And then also, as they said, Nicholas Flaws, quick stoppage, 4th round stoppage of Alan Sanchez. Very, very dominant fighter. And I always enjoy Naji Lopez as well. Let's see what let's see. I wanna agree with you, but he hasn't fought anyone noteworthy. Please, in the chat, go back to who do you say that you want to agree with me about, because I don't know that one. Pero almost got sparked out. Good for him for recovering. Yeah, I think that also just goes to guys can be really good prospects and face adversity, and it doesn't take away from their talent. It's hard being a developing fighter. Murtazaliev will smoke Lubin. We'll come back to the channel when we have that discussion, because that will be good. Conflict creates growth, and I think that also people that listen to this channel want some differing opinions. Golden Member, his last victory in the USSR territory was a worthy victory. So they're having a chat in there. So the ProBox TV card was very, very good. Let me get into, because now it's a short week of boxing, and I feel like my face is super fat too, which is just like lovely. A lovely thing to think when you're doing a solo pod. But our guys at 360 Promotions are putting on a great show. It's on UFC Fight Pass. I know a lot of boxing fans aren't big fans to get UFC Fight Pass, but these shows that 360 Promotions are putting on are really, really fun. Up until a couple of years ago, I won't lie. Actually, I've been watching them for a while because in 2019, I remember Mari Cornejo fought Aaron Tohill on a show. They had a card from the Avalon that just had a bunch of really evenly matched fights. I've been enjoying their cards for a while. They're pretty fun fight cards, but I think they've really kind of found a stride. They've gotten into a new level. Main event, Serhii Bohachuk against Myke Fox. A tune-up for Bohachuk. And on paper, it probably is, right? Because Myke Fox has never fought in at junior middleweight per se. Bohachuk is, in my opinion, at least a top 7 guy in the division. But Myke Fox is someone who holds a win over an Olympic gold medalist in 2016 from Uzbekistan. He beat him in 2019. He should have beaten Gabriel Maestre and gotten a secondary form of a WBA title. He lost to Mean Machine, which is no knock on that because Mean Machine's a very tough competitor. Really, really good fighter, very underrated fighter, and he has a fighting spirit where he's a tricky veteran. Bohachuk is just relentless, man. He doesn't have that knockout power, but he has that clubbing power to break you down. So I think this is a really, really good main event fight that I'm very, very excited about as we have it. Co-feature, Omar Trinidad is getting closer to what he wants, and that's a title shot. He's taking on Alexander Espinoza, a fighter with a lot of fights. He's got over 30 fights. Veteran. You know, you get these veteran opponents in here, and it can be tricky. Veteran from Nicaragua, coming off a draw on his last fight to undefeated Carlos Gonzalez in February. He's been fighting the regional circuit. He has a loss to Peter McGrill. He has a loss to Andrew Maloney, but he's been in with some good names. He's a tough guy. This might be more of what you'd call your traditional stay busy fight. Some people that I'm keeping my eye on this undercard, obviously Mizuki Hirota is someone that there's a lot of hype around. She's the WBO junior bantamweight title holder. A lot of people think she could be the best fighter in the division. I'm not going to lie to you. When I get on here, I shoot with you straight. I didn't love her pro debut. Not her pro debut, her debut with 360 Promotions. I thought that I was expecting a little bit more from her. So in this fight, it's an interesting matchup against a 16-2 opponent, accomplished opponent. I'm kind of looking for her to separate herself. On BoxRec, she's the number 1 fighter. This is the number 5 fighter. I'd like her to show that there's levels to this before she maybe goes for unification bouts. Some standout up-and-comers on this card. Guadalupe Medina. Lupe Medina really reminds me of a Sinise Estrada type fighter. Up-and-coming from LA. There's a lot of similarities I see in her style. I think she has a lot of star qualities to her. Abel Mejia is a junior lightweight that I really like, a power puncher, action fighter. And Jocelyn Camarillo is someone that I saw in the gyms in Las Vegas, junior flyweight, taking on Vicky Zhao. A good fight. You know, it's a good, interesting bout. Let's see what else we have this weekend. But that's really our big fight of the weekend. That's our notable fight card of the week. Let's see if anyone's and then they're giving me the super hardcores. Nobody ran this week. There's that. I think who ran this week, if we're gonna say there's a winner of the week, is Charly Suarez, if we're gonna say anyone. And then in the chat, the super hardcore, Fernando Martinez Puma defeated Ioka in Japan. I couldn't see the fight, so I mean I can't really commentate on it. You know, it's unfortunate that Ioka never has fights that I can watch, but that's just sort of what it is at this point. Let's see what else is on the schedule, and then I'll be wrapping up the show. Let me know how you like this. I feel like people like getting a podcast, even if it's just me. Am I too preachy? Give me constructive criticism, please, because I need feedback, because I am just winging it. And then I'm going to do my newsletter podcast, which is basically going to be the lead to this show, probably. I mean, this is a very, very thin week of boxing. So we also have, there's one other fight card that's worth noting. Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen, it's a rematch. And it's two like-minded people. It's two fighters with a similar mindset, kind of heavyweight party guys who are entering into the sport, who have a following. I think Dave Allen's more talented of a fighter, but he's had personal struggles. Johnny Fisher, on the other hand, maybe isn't as talented, but still a bit of a party guy, but he's maybe taking the sport a little bit more serious. The anecdotes, the back and forth, and some of the humor between the two is what sells this fight. And the fact that the first fight was extremely close. I think a lot of people thought Dave Allen actually won the fight in December, but it was a draw. So now they're doing it again. It's happening in London. It's probably the biggest fight on paper that's happening this week. Will it really make a dent in the world? No, but maybe the winner gets a big paycheck and Riyadh gets a big opportunity. This fight is mostly about personalities. And it's mostly about kind of a regional, exciting fight. This is, a fight not unlike that's a title fight, but this is a novelty fight where guys are trying to break into the world-class realm. Undercard, we got Kieran Conway. I really enjoy him. Kind of reminds me of John Ryder. I'm not sure how far he can go. I think he loses to the more talented fighters. But I definitely could see him being someone who's is in really good shape and is a really tough opponent for guys who, maybe are more talented but don't live the sport the same way. George Ledard, interesting, tough guy. Jimmy Sands is a reckless puncher who I really enjoy. Shannon Ryan, I believe, lost a fight, but she's someone who's been hyped. And Taylor Bevan is a really good deep undercard pick if you want to really, really just spend the day watching boxing. That's that. We will be back next week. I guarantee Dakota will be on next week. Who knows what we're talking about? But yeah, subscribe to the channel. Should have a video out by tonight or tomorrow previewing this week's fights. Let me know in the comments what you want. Do you want some YouTube shorts where I break down things? And there's another one in the comments. There's a Marv Nation card happening this week. I'm probably if the website chooses to do coverage, I'll probably be on coverage for that fight card. Never mad at that. Johnny Fisher won the first fight. Let me check this out. Did Johnny Fisher win the first fight? This is just telling you how much I care about this fight. Also, let me know how many gray hairs I have on my beard. That also really helps. Yeah, Johnny Fisher won the first fight by split decision. So that's why this fight is happening. So I viewed it as a draw. That shows you how much I cared. So I was completely wrong. Thank you to Shells for fact-checking me and serving as an editor, because I get a lot of things wrong, and editors are very important in my life. So that is our show. Let me know what you think. How did I do solo? What do you want? Leave it in the comments. Would you like me to do some shorts this week to break down some things? Is there any topics you'd like me to talk about? Do you want me to talk about it long form, or would you like me to do it in a 30-second little TikTok video? Would you like me to dance and do it? Maybe I could try to dance and make a point. Maybe I won't. Let me know, because that would be really helpful, because these next 3 weeks basically are very, very slow. And if people can't come on the channel, I love doing the podcast. I love growing it. I love feeling like I have friends in boxing that tune in and value this show, because I really enjoy tuning into things. So as a consumer or someone that enjoys this type of content, I try to be reliable for y'all. So let me know, because I want some feedback. I deeply appreciate y'all. Dakota will be back next week. He's super excited to come back. I wish he could be here this week. We're going to do probably a mega episode next week. And maybe I'll eat a large box of pizza. That will be decided. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in this week. If you didn't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up. And by the way, if you didn't know, if you really enjoy the show, go to where you listen to podcasts, but it'd probably be best if you go to the Apple Podcasts and leave a review of the show. because that also helps, because then we can tell sponsors and stuff, hey, look how important we are. We have this many, and that can help us. So until next week, it's Lukie, and I am out.